Hey everybody, it's Mark Masters, Always Bookin Comedy, special solo episode, just me. Kind of can't see the background when we do it this way. What if I like switch? No, there's no way to do it. You can see it, but all right, we're just going to do it like this. This has been pre-recorded. You're probably seeing this on Monday, July 10th or in the future. A little bit of a scheduling challenge with this week's with me, really. It was my fault and wasn't able to work around that. So here we go. I'm going to tell some stories. I got a couple ideas. What did I do with there's my phone. I did jot down a couple of ideas, things to talk about. Here we go. We're going to start with a sales story. Okay, a sales story. This was a show that I ran, sold out show. No room for extra people. Every single seat is taken. But this particular venue had a kind of interesting, unique green room, kind of like a cabana on the showroom floor towards the rear, semi-private, some like curtains that stay open, some nice benches, kind of like a couch. And that's where the comics hang out, towards the back of the showroom. There is a TV there where pre-show we run advertisements, show slides, pictures of comics, stuff like that. But it is possible at this venue to put a picture of the stage, a moving picture, if you will, a talkie. Actually, no sound, just video on this TV mounted on the wall. So no matter where you're sitting in the cabana, you could see the stage. Even if you can't see it directly, you can see it on the TV. Anyways, pre-show, manifested my own reality, told a couple comics. I bought pizza for all the comics. We're having a little pizza party before the doors open. I tell the comics, look, if I can sell this cabana for an absurd amount of money, I absolutely will. And I will split the money with all the comics. So like if we can get more than $1,000 for this space, we're going to stand during the show and we'll split the money. So here's what happened. The doors open, people start flooding in. We have an hour seating period at this show, and a pair of people come down. They want to buy tickets. I say, look, if you want to hang out until just before showtime, we'll sell you some full price standing room tickets if you're interested. But we'll see. Then a big group comes in. Big group. Gentleman comes down and says, we have 11 people. I'm like, look, man, we got nothing. But then I remembered, oh, we might have something. So I said, what do you do for a living? Because here's the thing. I give away a lot of tickets. If you're, just barely paying the bills in some of these fancy ski resort towns where I run shows, I'd love to have you at one of my shows. You'd make a great audience member. I've been there. It doesn't matter. But if you are, instead of going to the comedy show, going to go drink $40 martinis and run up a $2,000 food and beverage tab, I'm going to come at you a little differently. And that's what happened in this situation. I said, look, we got this cabana right here. It's private. You could reserve it. It's the only thing available. And for 11 people, I'll do $1,200. With a straight face, I said $1,200. The guy immediately fired back $750. I skipped over. I got the impression he owned a car dealership in Texas. That was the gist of. I kind of asked him what he did for a living before throwing it out there. So he fires back with $750. I say no deal. If you want to come back shortly before the show, I expect to sell this to somebody else. So you kind of wait outside and you figure out what to do over the next 45 minutes. So I'm seating people. I'm helping people with some various ticketing issues, checking people in. About 20 minutes later, I happen to go outside to deal with something, and there's that big group and that gentleman. And I asked the gentleman, I said, hey, what are you thinking? And he's like, well, our group went down to 10. What would you say to $1,000? And I said, look, here's the thing. We got 6 comics on the show, and I'm going to just split this money amongst the 6 of us. So $1,200 would actually be best for me because it makes it easy to split up the money. And then we had the funniest interaction. He goes, oh, you're a hustler. I'm a hustler too. I thought you were just some door guy. And I'm like, no, I ran this show. I flew in comics. I paid for hotels. I booked the whole thing, put up posters. Yeah, I'm definitely hustling here, and I'm hustling on behalf of some other hardworking comics. And he goes, all right, here's the deal. We're going to pay you the 1100, but we want the comics to sit with us if they can, if there's room. And I'm like, well, I can't control that, but it's nice that you invited them. And so they pulled out 2 platinum Amex cards. And here's a big side story is that I now take credit cards at the door. Thank you, Square. Game changer. Like, probably would not have been able to close this sale if it wasn't for this. But anyways, they put it on 2 separate cards, $550 each, $1,100, and we divvied up that money amongst the 6 comics, and we stood with big smiles on our faces the whole show. It was really quite a terrific evening and a sales win for me and my comedy show. Let's see. What's the next? That story went by incredibly quick. When there isn't another person to talk to, I'm not sure we're going to get a full 30 minutes out of this episode. And all right. So next one, let's talk about routing. That's when you're like a comedian and you're planning a run. I recently did like a 2,000-mile road trip. Sorry about the coughs. Don't need to catch my breath. That's the problem. I was just outside running, and I'm trying to squeeze this in, and then I got to pack, and then I got a like 3 a.m. flight, and whatever. It's you don't care about those details. The point is routing. So I got a 2,000-mile trip. I'm working 6 shows at a comedy club in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm driving from Denver. That's a long drive. It's like 13 hours. And so I was looking to break it up, looked at the map, saw Albuquerque, New Mexico. In my head, I'm like, oh, Albuquerque is a big place. Piece of cake to run a show there. Not as big a place as you would think. Albuquerque, pretty small place. But eventually I did track down a showrunner who actually did some online work with over the pandemic. Used to live in New York City, now lives in Albuquerque, and booked a show. I was going to headline, pretty modest pay, but that's okay. It's stage time. I'll sell some merch. Pretty excited about it. Side room of a brewery. And then about a week and a half before I'm about to make that drive, the venue cancels on the show producer because they booked the room to a private party. And so the show producer reached out to me, and I was like, all right, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. You can't always count on that money and those gigs. So what I did was I sent 9 cold emails to breweries, wineries, and distilleries around Albuquerque. Only 2 responded. One gave me a pretty generic response, like, we'll bump this up to management. Didn't seem very promising. The other one said, hey, we have a hole in our calendar that's specific. Let me point something out here. What I'm trying to do now is book a show in a specific city at a specific date that's only 10 days in the future. Not very easy traditionally. And particularly for me, what I'm doing is I'm selling myself as the headliner. That is like, I almost never produce a show where I'm the headliner, particularly an away game where it's in a different place at a specific time. This is uncharted territory for me. But the venue reaches out. They say, we'd like to work with you. We have a space. And I said, why don't we get on the phone? We got on the phone. I asked a bunch of questions. One of the questions was, have you ever run comedy shows here? When they said yes, I said, do you mind telling me who booked those comedy shows just so I can reach out and make sure I'm not stepping on their toes? And they said, yes, it's been a very long time since they did anything. Here's the information. And I did reach out to that comedian and ask. Small world, it turned out to be the same producer that was trying to book me. But I reached out, asked for permission. They were very flattered and surprised that I reached out and was so, I don't know what the word is, professional, nice, kind. And I said, absolutely, go for it. And so then I asked for some suggestions and some local talent. And then so I got the venue on board, and I spun up some tickets immediately, like got them online and started some different paid marketing stuff and got it into some online calendars, and then started working on the logistics. You know, it's not just me. There has to be like a stage and lighting and sound and chairs and other comedians, support acts, place to sell merch. I got to bring the merch. So I ended up bringing the stage and the lighting, and then another comic. I got a bunch of comic referrals. and I asked who has like sound and lighting. I was hoping that I could get the sound and lighting brought in locally. Couldn't figure out the light, so I brought my own light. Did figure out the sound. Somebody had the same sound system that I have, but like a notch higher, like a more heavy, bigger version, which is really cool. Booked that comic. They ended up featuring. Were great. Forget her last name, but first name Karin, Caryn. You know what? This is worth looking up. I'm gonna look up their name real quick. I know it starts with a C. Oh, geez. And then of course, I don't have her last name. What the heck? Go to my email real quick. See if I can find it there. There it is. Karin Carson. Very funny. Came from Texas, I guess. Now lives in Albuquerque. Very professional. Terrific. Shout out to Karin. Did a great job. So booked 3 other comedians. Had one of them host, one of them middled, one of them featured, and then I went up and I had 45 minutes. I ended up doing an hour, 57 minutes. Had a great time, and we had like 45 people in the room, so it made money. Like sold tickets online, sold tickets at the door with a credit card thing, sold a bunch of merch after the show. I made money. All the comics made money. The venue made money because they sold a bunch of food and beverage. Just like a really exciting accomplishment, I guess. I mean, I'm very grateful, very thankful that happened. I'm also booked to headline. This was set up beforehand in August. So this was a late June show. In August, I'm doing a small comedy club in Albuquerque, and I surveyed after the show, and 5 to 10 people said they will be coming to see me at that small comedy club. If 10 come, it's a 50-person room. That's 20% of the room. That would be, if they bring a date, that's 20 people. I'm almost selling half the tickets to the room. Just a wildly good experience for me. It was so fun. I'm a big fan of Albuquerque now. And then, and as it turned out, the headliner, most of my weekend shows that I was featuring for, also from Albuquerque. So small world there, a lot of Albuquerque connections. All right, we're closing in on halfway, and I got like 1.5 stories left. I wonder, I'm going to try and predict some questions about that show that I put on. I can't really think of anything. I will say this. I do have Eventbrite has a feature called, I think they're called collections or groups or something like that. And so like my Vail comedy show, you can go to a specific page that is like Mark Masters Comedy, Vail Comedy Show, and it'll show the 3 or 4 shows in the future that you can buy tickets for at Vail Comedy Show or Lodo Comedy Show, which is in downtown Denver. Very similar thing. I have recently, like this year, I believe, created Mark Masters Touring, and I put all these like one-off shows into that collection. I don't know if it matters, but it does add some legitimacy, I guess, if somebody is thinking about buying a ticket in Albuquerque and ends up seeing that, oh, he's also doing St. Louis or San Francisco or whatever. I also did sell a fair number of tickets directly online, like through my own credit card processing without Eventbrite, which is just wild to me, that people are buying tickets to see me kind of sight unseen. Like if you buy something on Eventbrite, it feels legitimate, but they're just like buying them off my website, which is pretty crazy. Want to thank Esther Coker as well, who was a big help, was the host of the show, helped with the merch, helped with check-in, very professional, great comedian. Can't wait to work with her some more in the future. All right, so we're moving on to story number 3 for this special solo edition of Always Bookin Comedy, where Mark Masters tells stories about shows and being on the road. And all right, this next one's about my car. My car, if you don't know already, is it's getting up there in years. It's got some gray hairs like I do. It's over 300,000 miles now. And for a while, I said I'd get a new car when I hit 300. And for various reasons, I decided to keep it. And then I put some money into it. So I got a new timing belt. This is going to get a little car talky here. I got a new timing belt. I replaced all the brakes. I got an oil change. So, and I did that with somebody I met at a comedy show who basically did the work in their garage. And that sounds sketchy. Yeah, it was a little bit, but it was like half price and it worked pretty well until 3,200 miles post repair. A lug nut got loose on a tire and I am racing to a gig. I did something wrong with the with the math. It was I don't know what I was thinking. I like to always get into town at least an hour early. You know, you never know what's gonna come up. But I would when I left the Denver area, I was going to arrive basically 5 minutes after the show started, and I sped and got that to the point where I was going to make it 10 minutes before the show was officially supposed to start. And you never know. Sometimes those times are doors. And as it turned out, we ended up starting like 25 minutes late at this show. But anyways, I'm driving. I'm 3-ish, maybe 4 hours into the drive, about 20 minutes from the destination. And all of a sudden the car starts going. I'm like swerving a little bit. And I'm like, I don't have time to pull over. I have to get to this gig. I don't know what's happening. I'm smarter now about this. Apparently, whenever that happens, you're supposed to pull over, tighten the lug nuts. I had no idea. So I keep going. About 10 minutes later, a car behind me, a concerned citizen, starts flashing me and pulls me over. So I pull over. He goes, "Hey, man, there's something wrong with your rear passenger tire. It's really wobbling back there. It doesn't seem like it's safe. Let's take a look at it." We go look at it. There's 5 lug nuts on a standard tire. 3 of them are missing, had snapped off. Who knows if the other 2 are tight or not? Well, I found out later. But at this point, he's like, "You should not drive this." And I was like, "Well, I have somewhere I have to be. It's only 10 minutes away. I will deal with this a little later tonight. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. And I'll drive slow." And then I immediately peeled out and kept driving. And got to the show. And then, of course, the show starts like 20 minutes late. I was there, early on time, whatever, ready to go. And then the show starts late. And then after the show, I had to deal with this situation. And it turns out I basically broke the rim of the car. Those are like $40 at a junkyard. So not like a huge deal. But by driving on it, once it was wobbling, I ruined the threads of the rim. So I had to basically get the car. The car was undrivable at that point. I did get out the lug nut wrench thing from the spare kit and tightened up the remaining 2 lug nuts, but then I did a little test drive and it was still pretty wobbly. And the gig I had a motel. So what I did was I booked a AAA at 11 p.m. at night. And they said they were going to be there at midnight, but I have enough experience with AAA to know that they don't. Their app and reality are completely disconnected. So what happened in this situation was what they meant by an hour from then was whenever the heck the company wants to show up. And so I called them, figured out who the company was, called the company. The company was like, "Yeah, we're not coming tonight. We'll be there in the morning." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty flexible, whatever." They said, "Okay, we'll be there at 7." So 7 in the morning, I got fancy AAA. Kids, get your AAA. Because this would have been like a $350, $400 tow. I got towed 100 miles closer to where where the mechanic person was. He drove down, did like a emergency repair, put the little donut tire on. We finished, and then we drove to a junkyard, bought a new rim. What did we do? Then we went to a different place where we removed the tire from the broken rim, put the tire on the new rim. He put it all back together, whatever. And there went half of my pay for the night before. But overall, I'm still winning because I haven't had to buy a new car. I've driven 3,500 miles with this 300,000 plus car since the timing belt repair, and now I feel like it's pretty rock solid at this point. It's gonna do great going forward. All right, so that was a crazy car story. I don't know if people have questions. This isn't interactive. Am I crazy talking to myself for 30 minutes? Hard to say. We're gonna do one more story. Oh yeah, okay. So this is it, and we'll wrap up with this. I'm gonna tell a story about a new hobby I guess I have. It's photography. I'm getting into photography, which is helpful in comedy. Um, I have a video recording set up and special audio recording to get good tape at my gigs. But every once in a while, I'll hire a professional photographer for my shows, and sometimes my shows are in, they're not in a big city, so it's difficult to get a photographer sometimes. And I figured, well, I won't be able to shoot myself, but I can shoot other comics. I can shoot the audience. I can use this stuff for promotional stuff, and maybe it will be fun. And let me tell you, it is a blast. I really love being bad at things, it turns out, because in the beginning you learn so much. So I'm getting better every show I shoot. I probably shot, let's see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like in 2 weeks, I've probably been on almost 20 shows, and I've shot in 3 weeks, almost 20 shows, and I've shot 15 to 20 shows, and I keep getting better. I just ordered a new lens, and I'm having a good time at it. I use Lightroom to edit the photos, and I share the photos with the comedians, and it's like the club that I was at, the club manager was very impressed with the photos I took and shared, and I kind of got the impression they were going to use them for marketing purposes. So I think that it might also turn into a weird booking helper, meaning like people who don't want to pay for a photographer might book me on their show if I'll take pictures, and I'll have to navigate getting paid. But really, at this point, I feel like I'm an open mic photographer, so I don't necessarily deserve to get paid, and I'm still kind of figuring it out. The biggest problems I've had so far are blue lights making people look like blueberries. You want amber, folks. Amber is a fancy word for yellow. Get some yellow light on, particularly Caucasians. Will make them look better. What other problems I've had? I had a problem where I was using a burst mode that was essentially video on my camera, and it was taking video, and the shutter speed of the video, so probably 30 frames per second, let's say, was the same frequency of the lights. So they were 30 flickers a second. I seriously don't know what I'm talking about. But the point is that in the video, there were like these lines that were, it looked like an old school TV where the antenna isn't quite perfect. And so it messed up the stills that came out of those short burst video clips all had stripes on them. So that was another problem. Definitely like low light situations has been an issue. And I'm not good at like composition yet. Like I look at photos and they're like, I can tell they're not done by a professional, and I don't really know why yet. Maybe I need to go to I don't know. Should I go to school? Should I ask somebody? If you want to go to my Twitter, it's at the Mark Masters. Probably a third of my last 30 posts have been collections of pictures that I've taken. Sometimes I just say like show photographer. I don't really say that it's me, but trust me, if you see photos from the last several weeks, I took them. And give me feedback, I guess. Email me. I got a contact form on my website, markmasters.co. If you're looking at this like 5 years from now, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how you're going to go back and find those posts in Twitter history, if Twitter even exists anymore. This weekend, Threads came out. People are all excited about that. I'm pretty sure if you're watching this a year from now, I kind of get the impression. I don't know. I've been on this merry-go-round a couple of times, and I feel like Threads is very exciting right now, but will eventually dwindle off. But who knows? Maybe we'll kill Twitter. So those are a couple stories from the road. Let's see what's coming up. I'm doing a comedy contest where I have to do 3-minute spots. And the way I'm looking at it is this is like training for America's Got Talent. Because on America's Got Talent, you're doing like 90 seconds to maybe 3 minutes. You got to be like really quick. So I've been working on I've been doing a lot of hour plus sets. I did 62 minutes after that crazy drive, and then got towed all the way back, most of the way back home. So now I have, because the feature went short and I had to make up for a little bit. But which is a long time, let me say, in a small room to do more than an hour. Like if there were like 100 people in a room, like easy piece of cake. Like the show I did in Albuquerque, I said 57 minutes earlier, but it might have even been over an hour. I was definitely, give or take, 3 or 4 minutes at an hour, and it felt great. Like when I went off, I felt like everybody would have liked me to go longer. I'm not sure that was the case at this smaller gig I recently did. That was less tickets were sold, let's just say. So that was a bit of a challenge. But what was I saying about that? Now I've totally lost the AGT analogy. So I'm trying to work out some 3-minute, it's a weird exercise to figure out what jokes like make sense together. A lot of my jokes are like 45 seconds to a minute 15. Like they're like basically a minute long. They're like a core premise and then punch. That roughly is a minute. So it's about 3 jokes, but I want like 3 jokes that thematically make sense together. And I've started this work, and in some cases I have like 3.5 minutes. So I got to figure out, what do I trim? Like what 30 seconds, like do I take 10 seconds out of each joke? Like what's the weakest punchline in each joke? And some other clumps are like 250. So like, is there a 10-second throwaway joke that I can pull from somewhere else and stick it in? I'm trying to figure that all out. So this Always Bookin Comedy, by the way, really fun. I feel like we're getting our sea legs, and I'm excited to talk to people. I've recently been working with a lot of people that I'm excited to have on the schedule coming up, and we're booked probably 10 weeks into the future. The guest who we were supposed to have on this episode is pushed back into the future. And that will be a fun conversation, but just it's a real treat to do this. So I appreciate you tuning in. I'm Mark Masters. If you want to know anything about me, the best place to start is markmasters.co. That's CO like Colorado, and it's Mark with a K. I don't know if you're listening to this or what's going on, but I guess subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at the Mark Masters, and buy some tickets to my shows. If you go to my website, they're all there. I'd love to see you at a show. And we almost made it to half an hour, which I'm pretty proud of. And also my voice is going to be mad at me. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to Always Bookin Comedy. We'll be back next Monday. And if you've been tuning in this whole time and typing into the chat, this isn't live this one time. It was pre-recorded because of a scheduling issue. But thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm going to try to figure out how to end the recording.